most powerful thing in Quinta da Fonte is that we passed very fast from being complete strangers in the neighborhood to feeling part of a group in some way. Dance and movement for me came inside my practice and came as a connection in order to invite people to more actively participate and without really replying to already set questions.
Welcome to EM CONVERSA, a podcast of the curatorial art and research collective Mais Uno Mais Un. Today's episode is part of the Play the Ground Conversations, where we try to dive deeper into the experiences of the artists who took part in our 2024 summer residency program. In episode 8, we are talking with Fenya and Danai, the members of the Urban Pulse Collective, who spent 2 intensive weeks in Quinta da Fonte this summer. The collective aimed to explore the concept of informality through movement and dance combined with urban research. They aimed to uncover the embodied experiences and memories of the neighborhood's residents using dance and movement practices to create a new space and representation of the community. But before I go too far into it, it's probably best to hear from them.
So I am Danai Tursoğlu. Myself, I am an urban sociologist. I work with community projects among urban planning and art. The Urban Pulse Collective is a collective that we are initiating with Fenya Hadzaku. It seeks inside the memories and the embodied experience of the residents to create new spaces in different places in the world. And also to create an image of what the neighborhoods are actually about from inside of the eyes of the people. So yeah, that's from me.
And I am Fenya Hadzaku. I am a dance pedagogue and dance artist, also creator. And I have been working with professional dancers and also amateur people, creating pieces internationally and yes, working together. And with Danai, actually it's an initiative that we decided to do and to bridge these two practices, like movement practice with more the architecture of the body and the space. So, yes.
It's very interesting. To me, in the first moment, I think architecture and urban spatial planning and then movement and dance seem kind of far away, but as I also was able to accompany you in some things, I could tell how they could be connected. Can you speak about it from your perspective? What made you decide to bring these two practices together?
For me, what was interesting in this collaboration was to kind of discover what is already there and then highlight it or bring it back in a new way. So for me as a movement educator, I was really interested to see what was the kind of archetypal or like the history of the bodies in space, what the movement patterns or what movement memory did the participants already bring, the people, and then how to integrate this into a new form or to bring it back in a different way. So it was really interesting to research first and then make decisions on what to do in the practice.
So from my side, also what Fenya said, also in urban planning, we realized that bodies and memories are part of places, and we shouldn't really look at neighborhoods without taking them into account. And while there is really a lot of research that speaks about it, there are very little to no practices that invite people through their bodies and memories to speak about what is there, what Fenya said. That's like the connections, the cultures, the connection among the people and with the people and the space. So dance and movement for me came inside my practice and came as a connection in order to invite people to more actively participate and without really replying to already set questions. So people would really showcase to us what is important to them through movement, and also be more open to this process of improvisation and eventually expression and creation. At the same time, we decided to work together also because we know each other for a really long time, almost 30 years now, but we had never really worked together. So as people, we knew that we have a place among us, and we believe that this, connected to the communities, could create an in-between space within the group that was eventually true. So this is a second reason why we decided to start this journey with Quinta da Fonte together.
If I understand it correctly, then also the summer residency in Quinta da Fonte was the first time you worked collectively as the Urban Pulse Collective. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So what was it about the place that made you feel like, okay, this could be a first step for you to work together?
We were very much interested and drawn by the title of the residency, the informality. So this already created a space for us to explore and to discover also in a not such a fixed structure. So it gave us a lot of freedom and a lot of also space to find the framework also for ourselves.
What interests you about informality? Can you go deep into that? I know it's a difficult question maybe, but
the concept of informality, that it's a very open space, and it has nothing to do there are already structures that are informal. It doesn't mean that there is no structure. So it is how to kind of create that we had the space to create a structure within the space. So informality was something interesting for us also, to define and to kind of dive inside of it. I cannot really say what was it, but yes, there was a framework, and then we had to find problem solutions, or to make us to create questions for problems that we could see, and then it was more active from our side, I have to say, because there was nothing given, so we had to create the practice for ourselves. We had to create the framework, and this was very interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. To me as well, the word informality was a little bit challenging in the beginning. So when I saw the open call with the title of informality as resistance, and also connected to research and art practice, it felt that what we were thinking what we could do together would really fit inside the framework. So the word informality in urban planning is a little bit controversial, because it recognizes what is decided in higher levels as the formal and takes as informal all the rest. So when you state it as resistance, then you also raise questions on the same word. So basically, this combination of the two words is what gave us the step in order to explore what is at the end this informal. The previous, I had the opportunity of working for 2 years in an neighborhood someone would call informal in Colombia. That was a self-constructed neighborhood with a lot of social movements. And when we saw the descriptions of the neighborhoods that Maisuno was inviting us to work with, we saw Quinta da Fonte, that was actually a very stiff urban infrastructure, a social housing neighborhood, but at the same time with people that would connect and create and recreate these spaces with their identity and connections. So this is the part that we wanted to, and we eventually showcased this, the informal, that is sometimes much more important than the constructed environment for the everyday life and the neighborhood. And this, we also understood this at the end, and with the discussions with the residents, as the resistance, or the life resisting the stiff structure of an infrastructure.
Okay, so now we already started off with a very conceptual and maybe intellectual way of thinking about it all, but what did it mean for you in practice? What was your idea when you got to the neighborhood? What did you want to do with the people?
So community processes for us always have to be open and emergent, because it is what you just said. You do things with the people, you don't do things for the people. So the idea is create a group that can be transforming. It can be a different group every day, but it's a group of people, and create collective knowledge based on what we already know, and find a common space. So this was the initial idea. We had an already set list of potential workshops and tools we could use depending on our own practices, but basically how the process would go would depend on the people. This is why what we planned for the end was actually an informal showing, and not a very stiff outcome of it, because we didn't know what would come out of it. The idea was to see what art there is in the neighborhood, what memories, what intentions, claims, dynamics form part of it, and create something really together, depending on what we can do. So in practice, for me, the most powerful thing in Quinta da Fonte is that we passed very fast from being complete strangers in the neighborhood to feeling part of a group in some way. It wasn't really a transition. It was one day that you realize that people speak to you, say hello to you. Even sometimes they don't want to participate in the activities, but they accept that you are somehow part of a place and a group. And I think this is what we eventually managed to create all together at the end, a new place among us and with the neighborhood.
Do you want to add anything, Fenya, or we can also just continue?
I wanted to add on that this transition, as Danai said, it was really beautiful and surprising, because in the beginning there was a kind of resistance, and kind of we were trying to find a way also to not force participation, or not to force any of our ideas, and also this transformed a bit the way of interacting with the group. We were quite fluid, or quite versatile in how to the tasks that we would propose, so that we could see what was the reaction of the people, and then we would continue on. So yes, this kind of resistance, we managed not to defend, not to be defensive, but to go with it, and to also be also versatile in our approach.
Is there something specific in there that you think helped you to become more a part of the group? Were there maybe specific people or moments when you felt okay, now we are getting to be a part of it?
Okay, so there are various moments. I will name one and then let Fenya name a different one. For me, it was a very powerful moment. For quite some time, we were speaking with the group that plays batuk from the neighborhood to connect, hear their art, maybe propose. We proposed some activities and they proposed some other ones. So they invited us in a rehearsal they had. And while we started with activities, eventually we ended up playing batuk all together, singing, dancing, and at some point also the teenagers from the activities of different days joined the group, seeing us there. And this was a moment that we realized that we are actually part of a more extended group than this rehearsal was about. And it almost felt like we were invited to something that's almost intimate of a group, and it opened up to a wider community. So to me, that was a very significant moment and a feeling of actual trust for us.
And there was another moment when in the group we were working with emotions, and they had to map their emotions or to put their emotions, let's say, in the neighborhood space. So we were working with fear and anger, I think with anger. And then some kids decided to sing or to rap. So they were quite into the rap scene, and this was beautiful that they actually used, and then they expressed their anger through this through singing. And it was quite an exchange, because we didn't know that they were rap singers in our group, or that it was also a very powerful tool.
It's funny to me because one of the first conversations I had for this podcast was with Rika Vainio, who's an artist who lives in Italy but comes from Finland, and she worked with, I think, the same group of teenagers that you did, and she had a completely different practice, but I think in a way you both maybe enabled an open space where the kids were able to bring out their own things. And in her practice they started rapping at some point, and for you they started rapping. So maybe it's really just something when they feel comfortable enough, they are able to showcase what is part of their way of expressing themselves anyways. So that's a very interesting point to me. Maybe also because I was able to be a part of some practices and activities that you did. I of course was able to notice that in the beginning there was just the issue of not speaking Portuguese, and it's not easy, especially in Quinta da Fonte, I think, to connect with the people if you don't speak the same language. So how would you say were you able to kind of go past that difficulty?
With dance and movement, it's a bit easier because we don't depend so much on the language, because already a movement is a universal language. So for me, I would just enter the task, play a music, and then I would kind of invite them to participate physically. And I would mostly bring games in space, or a bit more playful interactions that they would that they could relate to, because it's a kind of there is a bit of not this competitiveness, but you could see that they really like to kind of challenge each other, and to have some games that they are a bit more aggressive. This was easier for them to connect than bringing in space something a bit more sensitive or a bit more light, let's say. So I figured out that I could bring this playfulness, and this was a connective point, a route to enter into their way.
Yes, to me it's the same. Our practice is based a lot. Actually, takes into account the language barrier. Otherwise, we wouldn't apply for the residency. We knew that through movement we can create a common language. We were also expecting there will be other languages than Portuguese, so this was from the beginning something we took into account. And also we had I was thinking that for the part that had to do more with expressing on the paper, maybe we could even do it graphically if it wouldn't work, but it actually worked out, and it wasn't needed. I know some words in Portuguese that helped in some moments.
No, you were speaking.
I
Danai could speak. Come on, we had Danai. She was very good.
Let's say I'm a bit better than day one of the works.
Yeah, I was also impressed in the first days. I can agree with Fenya there for the Portuguese part. Maybe if we go more into this idea of movement and dance, maybe as a universal language. I don't know if this metaphor works for you, but would you say that they had a different way of expressing movement, or there were any local accents in the way of movement that interested you, maybe especially Fenya, as you are maybe more closely rooted in movement?
Of course, they could, their way of language, it was really rhythmical and mostly connected to their feet and to the pelvic area was the most expressive area of their body, which for me, yes, we have some I have some knowledge, but for them you could see that this is their way of being. And also the kids, I could see that they are quite athletic, they were really into football, running, jumping. Because they are actually their way of expression comes from the streets, and although they don't have many structures like playgrounds and stuff, they stay active, running or playing football, because yes, they had a football court, and all the boys were actually into football. So in the practice also we try to integrate this knowledge and to create a new space for this knowledge to exist. So we found out parkour, which is a quite open form of moving, and also it integrates the urban space with quite archetypal movement of running, jumping, swinging. So we thought that this could be perfect for them to transition from something that they already know to something new that we invite them to do.
In general, I'm really interested in what you think you brought to the neighborhood, and also what you were able to take back from the experience. So what was this exchange like, and maybe also the different perspectives, because you come from different fields and maybe also notice different things?
So the question of what we brought and what we took, to me it's very connected. And it's connected to what I said before a little bit, to the openness to change with the others. I feel that starting from the neighborhood, I feel that we managed all together to create a new place. In the informal showing happened something that, as I said, it was something very open. We were about to see what's about to happen, but we realized that we wouldn't have to give much of instructions anymore. So the kids knew when they wanted to propose activities, they knew how to use a place where in the beginning they used to just sit at the benches in order to propose parkour lines or to dance in couples. So they really knew, their body and their collective knowledge knew what to do with this place, with whom they coordinate better, so they would stand next to that person. So there was a place in between the people and with the neighborhood that wasn't there in day one of the residency. And I feel that it could still remain there. Maybe not for this big group of people, but we would expect a smaller group, for example, to do parkour again in this place. So what changed in us, I think also many things. First, that we had the opportunity of actually learning many new things, like having the chance of learning how to play batuk, to witness new rhythms, for me to learn a bit more the language, but also to realize that we can connect in groups with so many different age groups, and also multicultural groups without even knowing the language. So this feeling that was created within every group every time that we managed to get all together and coordinate, this was something that changes the way you feel about places, neighborhood, and creates many new thoughts. So
yes, I completely agree with Anai also. Like the practices of, like, we actually practice also how to be familiar with something and with people and with the neighborhood. So sometimes we bring ideas or like things that we think we know but we don't really know, and how to practice being present, getting familiar with something. So for me this was very interesting, and always it was constantly in my head how to reinform what I know, and then practically I really feel that after our small interactions that we created a new contract, a new behavioral contract, or how to, like, we agreed with the kids how we can be with each other, and this like 2 weeks contract, maybe like next time we meet, maybe it will bring back memories, or maybe like I feel like maybe kids now even they will continue playing some games that we played, like they would parkour in the neighborhood, that, or like in the square, in the main square of the place. And for us this this bringing aliveness into like their everyday space, this was something that it might stay also for longer. And also like the informal showing for us was really important, that we could provide something that maybe the kids they haven't experienced before, like to bring a performative aspect and to make them visible. So even the fact that we invited audience, and then we participated and we created the space for them to be seen, I think this was really important. And we saw with Anai that they were behaving differently. They were even more alert, even more focused. The day of the showing, they felt really good being on the spot, like on the spotlight. And for us, this was very important to have this in the process. It felt good to kind of transition into like a next level of interaction.
You mentioned this idea of the informal contract that you had with the teenagers or children of Quinta da Fonte. Do you think that this way of behaving with each other will also change the way you behave with new people now, like outside of this closed relationship?
I think this is something like the response is yes, but it's something very difficult to define how this will inform the way we interact with people from now on. So for me, definitely, like, because we are speaking only about, the beautiful part of the relations, but was also the difficult part, the part where one has to gain trust, and it's not forever, it's just for today, and maybe tomorrow has to try again. So this feeling that the things actually worked at the end and it made sense. This is something that will definitely inform our practice from now on. Like almost a confirmation that sometimes you have to try a bit more than you would expect to start the processes, but then it's really worth it because it changes the way you interact with people and that people interact with each other in space. But definitely its place is different, so we never take one way of doing to the next one, just the tools to empower this relation, and they have definitely been informed through the experience in Quinta da Fonte.
Especially to you than because I know that you worked in Colombia as well and in the US and Boston. How would you compare your experience in Quinta da Fonte with those two places? Oh, and also in Greece.
So its place is completely different, and also they are projects with completely different durations. So, for example, the project in Colombia was 2 years working with one community, the project in Boston 1.5 years with two different communities, and the one in Greece was a space that was there for 3 years in a row, while this was a project for 2 weeks of intensive work with the community. So it's like it's definitely different and also different cultures, but some things are also very similar, like the way eventually people interact when art is in the middle of it, which is something I witnessed more in Colombia, and I was taught by the people in the community that art is part of their way of expressing claims and expressing emotions. And in Quinta da Fonte also, I think it was an application where one would say that through art we managed to create a new space and also collective claims with the residents. So something else that was really interesting and really different in Quinta da Fonte was that for the first time I felt that the structured space wouldn't exist. Like it wouldn't play any role because, for example, in Colombia it was an informal neighborhood where people, informal as we call it in the residency, where people had constructed everything. So basically they had made their space for their uses. So it was the community space, the community gardens, and the houses, and each one had a place and a use. While in Quinta da Fonte, it was an infrastructure that was created for them, lacking any intention of activity. So depending on the time, the day, or the people that were in the streets, you would see something that would be a square in a European city, let's say, in different corners of the neighborhood, depending on where the people they wanted to be with are and the people they didn't want to be weren't. So this way of that the space is being transformed and created all the time only based on the relations is something very unique that we found in Quinta da Fonte, and a very interesting ground in order to work with the community. We heard many times people say that there is no community in Quinta da Fonte because when they were inviting people to speak about what they want about the neighborhood, they wouldn't join, or they wouldn't join easily the activities. But I felt the exact opposite. I felt that what creates Quinta da Fonte is actually the existence of a community and of the social relations. And this is something very different from all the other places. Like even Boston has a very stiff infrastructure, but that people respect, and they go to the square to meet, to the playground to play. But there they have all the time to create new places, and I feel that was something that also changed our activities and the way we work with the community. We had this one activity called sensorial parkour, that we would close the eyes of the participants, and another person would guide them, and they would say at the end what they felt. And we were thinking that they will say about the sounds, about the textures, about the smell, but they all spoke about the trust and the mistrust they were feeling in the other people. They said that they were feeling, for example, comfortable and happy when they were passing from somewhere, or really afraid when the person guiding them them was not someone they would trust so much. They would speak about the people they would touch, but almost no one spoke about the place. And this, I think, is the most powerful metaphor of what makes the experience in Quinta da Fonte different from any other I have had in the other contexts.
So also, from your perspective as someone who comes from architecture, would you say that the community in Quinta da Fonte has a different way of appropriating the structure in the neighborhood?
Definitely. Like they have different ways, also culturally, as there are many different cultures and many different living experiences. So they have a very unique way that is created because of the people that are right now living in the territory. And I expect that if I go back in 1 year from now, that as I understand the population changes, there will be also a new, different way of appropriating all the spaces. Of course, you witness many times the need for some more structured spaces, like for example the playground that we were mentioning, definitely the medical centers that many people would mention. So this is not in order to romanticize the situation, but is to say that life in Quinta da Fonte definitely creates new spaces and new ways of appropriation.
Okay, I think I would almost come towards the end of the interview. Maybe as this was your first experience like working together as the Urban Pulse Collective, could you imagine how this work influences your future work if you want to continue to work together?
Yes, we will definitely continue working together. And this experience, it was very powerful and very life-changing, I would say, for me, because we come from a very privileged, I come from a very privileged standpoint where things are given, where things are there for you, there are structures, and still there are problems, of course, you need to face, but I understood like how powerful it is to kind of enter in a situation and explore and get familiar or have patience also when things don't go the way you want to go, and kind of be kind of gentle with yourself and your practice and with the people, and this kind of interspace between things. Actually, it's really challenging how to bridge two practices, or how to bridge two spaces, or it's very interesting. So I will definitely go back to how things were there, and like all the interactions we had and the memories we created, and definitely this will reinforce a better understanding about new spaces, about new experiences. And I'm very grateful that we had this time and we had this opportunity to research and to kind of bring art, or like reinforce the idea of art in a new space for me. It was really vital.
So to me, I think that most things have been already said, both by Fenya now and throughout the interview. But I would definitely see continuing the work of Urban Pulse Collective after this first work with Quinta da Fonte. It was really like transformative to me as well, to see how powerful it is to involve the people and the group as a whole, and especially when you involve them as bodies and also as memories in a community practice. That was something I hadn't experienced before. We're just imagining with Fenya how it could work. Yes, also obviously like the different memories and voices we heard will follow us, like this importance of the acts of care and the different ways that the community can exist, even if in a first glance it might not. All these things I think will follow us personally and also like our collective practice. And I think it's also a very vital component that showcases the importance of involving people through art into all this discussion about places and cities. We can imagine much more just places of care through these practices.
Okay, so thank you so much. If there's anything that you feel like it's still left unsaid, you can of course share it now.
Yes, that you were also very helpful and you were also very present to our residents, and thank you so much for being so open and helping us and supporting us. It was like very important to have you in this process, I have to say.
It was really nice to witness everything that you were doing there, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to see some more stuff, even if it is just maybe online or I don't know, seeing whatever happens and continues in the process.